But we also have younger nuns now. We actually have a skateboarding nun, hops on her skateboard, and you see her in her habit like the flying nun.
But what I really learned is they're vicious businessmen. You do not want to cross, no pun intended, the sisters.
I left Trinidad. I know no one in New York. I bought a ticket, and I decided that I was going to come by myself. And I took the train from 125th Street straight to Partners in Care, and became a home health aide.
I remember I had a manager and I walked into her office. She asked me for something. I said, no problem. And I walked out. She said, come back here. I turned around terrified. She says to me, there are no problems. There are only solutions. Never say no problem again. Only say my pleasure.
None of your business, Ushy. None of your business, Michael.
It's the None of Your Business podcast, hosted by Michael and Ushy.
Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the None of Your Business podcast. You know, one of the things that we're doing these days is we're running around to conferences and interviewing thought leaders. And some of those thought leaders are women, and the women in healthcare are making a very big mark. Every time we go to a conference, there's a special section for the women, and they have these conference within a conference. And we had the opportunity to sit down with two what I would call trailblazers in the healthcare industry. And I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. And you're right. You don't see a lot of women specifically in healthcare that are on the executive side and the ownership side. But now you have started seeing it a little bit more than ever. And it's very impressive and really begs the question, like, why hasn't this happened sooner? But I think that it's great that it's happening now and that we're recognizing these women, and they're very strong women, and they're bringing something to the table that I think has been missing in our industry. Caretaking, that's their nature, they're nurturing, so I think that is a big element to what's really enhancing what they're doing. So I'm loving it.
And thank you for Prime Source as the production team. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, get involved. Check it out. So I was at the trade show floor at the event that Prime Source had, and I like to tell everyone, just look for people who are, by themselves, and just go be friendly and get to know them.
Yeah.
And I saw you playing basketball on that court, and I'm like, oh my God, she's really good. I couldn't believe it. She was just banking them, swishing them. And I just said, you want to have a one-on-one? We got to meet. And then I find out who she is. Why don't you introduce yourself to all of us?
Okay. Hi, I'm Trish Gathers, and I serve in the capacity of the CEO of the Carmelite system. And we just recently opened up a new organization called Kerith Ministries, where we're focused on trying to preserve the footprint of the Catholic Church and their ministries, particularly in post-acute. As many of the congregations are now coming to their completion, we need to find an avenue for them to be able to, have a safe landing place for their land and their ministries that they've had. And so the Carmelite Sisters, who is our sponsor in Catholic healthcare, you have to have a sponsor. And so they'll be able to provide a venue for them to be able to give purpose and ongoing service to the communities.
You guys never stop. You have a mission and you keep going and you make more missions. And I have to tell you, I have the utmost respect to you all and the sisters. I mean, they're involved on the day-to-day, right?
Absolutely. We still have about 112 sisters, and they still serve in the capacity of Vice President of Clinical Services.
How old are we talking about? What's the oldest age group?
Well, we have sisters that go the whole way up to 100 years old, but the ones that are in ministry still actually engaged, they're probably in middle 70s. And Sister Diane always says, we don't retire, we just expire. Oh. They work right up until the end as possible, as much as possible. And they're very inspirational, but we also have younger nuns now. We actually have a skateboarding nun. So, yeah, she's amazing.
How does she skateboard?
Yeah, Sister Dolores, she just has on her habit, and when she's up at the system office, she hops on her skateboard, and you see her in her habit like the flying nun, and coming right on down. It's really amazing. So, yeah, and I think that's what's so encouraging is that we're now starting to see a resurgence, and that's why it's also important for us to preserve this footprint, because if we keep selling off, then how do we minister to people? And the Catholic Church is actually the second largest owner of real estate in the world.
Wow.
And so it's really, really important for us to try to preserve that so we can continue to make impact.
I have to tell you, on behalf of the entire Prime Source family, we're honored to be working with you hand in hand. And the account manager that we have, the person that manages your expenses on our behalf, he was an administrator for a non-for-profit facility. So
That's right.
he has that background. How's your experience been with Prime Source?
It's been amazing. First of all, I want to call out Ushy for,
Oh.
he schooled me on how to go through those outsourced contracts and find where those margins were that they were pulling out of the company. And I mean, that's what business is. But that alone helped drop to our bottom line $1,200,000 in one.
What did you do with all that money?
The sisters always find a way to provide more service to everybody. We're a not-for-profit organization, but still, if that's what's important, but sometimes we have to pull that back for sustainability. And Prime Source really has been instrumental. I sincerely mean this. The amount of costs that we lowered this year has been incredible. It's one of the first years where our revenues grew 11% and our expenses only grew 5%. So it was mainly staffing, but all of the savings that you guys have brought over our 10 buildings, and we're on a growth trajectory. And now we can be on a growth trajectory confidently because of everything you've done. But so thank you for noticing my basketball, but also reaching out, because I don't know if you remember, we went then into karaoke and you were hosting the karaoke, and it was a really nice time. And I got to meet so many nice people at that event.
I got to be honest with you. I'm going to share something a little bit vulnerable with you.
Okay.
So we were playing basketball for like 15 minutes.
Yes.
And then I said, come with me to karaoke. And you came with me to karaoke.
Yeah.
And I tell this to people all the time. Build relationships.
Right.
Doesn't matter who you're with. It could be a vendor. It could be an operator. Everybody's a window into an opportunity somewhere, whether it's progress business or progress personally. You're going to grow by meeting people.
That's right.
And you came to the karaoke room and you started singing. And then I walked outside to get a drink. Probably 3 people came to me in a matter of 30 seconds. Do you know who's in there? You should go in there and sing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Who's that? And then I got to know who you were. We didn't have our badges on at the time, and we didn't even know who each other. And it was amazing. So I really appreciate the fact that you allowed that to happen. And that's what's amazing about your background and who you are as a person, is that you're responsible for so much. I mean, your systems care for so many people.
They do.
And there's so much that we're learning from your operations that, you're learning from us. I have to tell you, we're learning more from you.
Oh.
And it's an honor to be part of your system.
Well, I'm so proud of this event today. And one of my business partners, the guy who really helped me form Kerith, who kept nagging me, his name is Joseph Levin. And he's actually doing a roundtable today. And you know what it's on? Finding purpose and meaning in post-acute services. And it's because of his engagement with the sisters and seeing how we look at our decision-making. And yes, we do need to be financially sustainable, but it also is about the impact that we're trying to make in the lives of seniors. And so it's really transformed him, and I'm so proud of him. So even though I was so busy today, I made room because I wanted to come out and support him as he's talking about this, because he's brought also so much value. And Isaac Rubin, that was the gold seal for you guys when he's like, I know who to take you to help you with your purchasing. And it was you guys. And I'm like, oh boy.
That sealed the deal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Isaac.
The best.
Yeah,
He's the best.
Isaac's a friend of the company. Trish, I have to tell you something that I've learned by working with your amazing organization. So I'm a nice Jewish boy from, somewhat upstate New York, I like to say. And I've never really had a lot of interaction with a nun and with, the sisters. This was really kind of my first major exposure.
Oh,
Here's what I learned.
Okay.
Here's what I learned. Okay. Apart from them being extremely devoted and dedicated, you could see what they do is it comes from a sincere place that if you peel it away, it's all heart.
Right.
Really what it is. You could tell. You could see the way they talk about it. But what I really learned is they're vicious businessmen. You do not want to cross, no pun intended, the sisters. You do not want to cross, they know what's going on. They have their finger on the pulse.
Thank you for saying that, because I think a lot of times they think that the sisters, that they're not professionals. They are licensed RNs, administrators. They serve in the capacity of the board. They understand their financials because it's so important for them to be able to sustain their ministry. And they're bold enough to say, you know what? We see that there's an emerging need in society, and we're going to rise up after the pandemic. Once we stabilize ourselves, which you guys have helped us to do, we're now going to make that bold step to reach out and to really try to serve others who either are at the end of their ministries with the other congregations of sisters. And the other thing that we're going to be doing is helping the aged religious, which this is really, really sad. A lot of the school teachers in particular, they're 50% underfunded in their retirement needs because they took a vow of poverty. So I think a lot of times people equate that, to justify who you are, and that if you've been a successful person, you measure that in dollars, right? And these sisters who did a vow of poverty, and the sisters built 25% of the infrastructure of the United States with a vow of poverty. All of the various congregations, the schools, the hospitals, the nursing schools way back when, the universities, they did all of that. And now some of them, of the congregations, are having difficulty in meeting that gap. And so it's something that we also want to help by using some of these buildings and repurposing them and making sure that the sisters aren't just trying to build everything on their own. We're going to have to come up with models of care to really make sure that they're properly cared for.
Wow. You've been watching all this growth happen, and you've been seeing so much impact that it can have.
Yes.
I'm curious, what would you say to someone who's starting in the industry? What would you tell yourself, your young self, like, oh, I wish I would have known this?
Well, you know what? In my career, my first entry into Catholic healthcare, there's three things. The first one is to have the courage to see where there's a problem, because as I've grown through my career, it is about purpose and impact that you're making. It's not about all of the things that you accumulate. It's about what you give. And so, when you move up in your career, you can find that all of a sudden you're a vice president or whatever, and you find it's very empty. It's like, yes, I have more power. And it's not power over, it's power to, and be able to influence and create a vision for people to be able to make an impact in the world. I think the other thing that's important is not to be afraid to solve problems. So one of the other parts that I always tell all of the employees that start out working for us, to not be afraid to be a vacuum. And that means, like, if there's a problem, go there and fix it. And it doesn't mean you have to know everything. You'll learn through that experience. And the third one, I have to say, is really, really important. And it was Bob Stanek, who was my CEO at Catholic Health East. And he said, the one thing that you must always preserve is your integrity. If you lose your integrity, you lose everything. And so in all of my business dealings, that really resonated with me. And I always made sure that that's something that I put at the
beautiful.
front.
I appreciate you sharing that all with us. I'm curious, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, what was your first job? When did you make your first $1?
My very first job was flipping burgers, baby.
Yes.
You and everybody else in America.
Right.
Apparently, that's the number one job that most Americans have in common, is that their very first job was working at a burger joint.
Right.
You know that?
Yeah.
They just came out with that statistic.
Yeah. Wow.
Flipping burgers
Right.
is the number one job that all people had at one point.
And then I knew that I wanted to go into accounting. So then during the summer, I started working in accounts payable. And then my first real job was working for Arthur Andersen.
Wow.
And I can shred paper really well. That's an inside joke on Enron, but actually I did work for Arthur Andersen. The reason why I picked them was my goal was to work at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. And so I was able to do so. So when I was at Arthur Andersen, they were one of my clients. And then when they had an opportunity, I went there. And now you'll say, well, how did you get to post-acute services? They tell you when you start working at a children's hospital that it may be very hard to actually cope working at Children's Hospital. And so it was my lifelong goal. And after 9 months, it really was impacting me. It was so hard to see parents mourning the illness of their children and watching these sick children taking care of their parents. And so through my connection with Arthur Andersen, I was able to move to Axe Retirement Life. And that's when I made my entry into post-acute. And then I got tired of like the CCRCs and just serving the upper sector. I wanted to take those learnings and move it to middle income and to low income. And so voila, that's where I landed.
Beautiful.
I
Trish,
love it.
we don't deserve you. We don't deserve you.
Oh.
You're a powerhouse.
Oh.
I mean, you are. We could talk another 3 hours.
Yeah.
Not just your accomplishments, but the intricacies of it and the details behind it. You've done so much. You've seen so much. You've been involved in so much. You keep saying, Prime Source helped, and and you appreciate.
But you did.
We appreciate you. We
really
are
do.
So appreciate.
We want to invite you back, Trish.
Yeah.
Come
There's
have
lot
a one-on-one
more.
with us.
There's
We
a
need
lot
to have
more here.
of
This is
you.
not enough. This is not
definitely
justice.
not enough. Yeah.
Well-
My New Year's resolution is to have you on the podcast one-on-one.
In one of her amazing facilities, we should
that
do
would
like
it
be
that.
great.
with the scenery in the background.
With
set it
the
up
sisters.
Oh,
with
there
the
you go.
sisters.
They'll love it. They
With the
absolutely
sisters.
will
We're
love
going to
it.
do it.
Yeah.
What is your New Year's resolution?
My New Year's resolution.
It's coming up,
I think it's really to, I've been so busy, focusing on external things that I want to now take some time to focus back on my daughters who have been really watching me grow in my career. But I want to make sure that I take a moment not to get so busy. And it's really been a very demanding year trying to set up a new company and everything, that I want to reconnect with them a little bit more. Not that I never left them behind, because you get at that
Never
age
enough.
when they're
Never enough.
29
Yeah.
and 32. They want to kind of mom go away a little bit.
Of course.
Right. So
course.
I just want to make sure that I take some time to really check in with them again to see how things are going for
Love
them.
that.
Love that for
it.
you. Love that for your kids. And I have to say, congratulations for everything you've done till now, and good luck on your new venture and the
Thank
new journey
you.
that you have with this
Well,
organization.
you're coming with us, baby.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Ushy, your story matters. Let's talk is the slogan for our newest sponsor, the Serenity Center, which is a clinic for therapy and many other types of services that people need for mental health challenges. And I have to tell you that I did not want them to be a sponsor of ours until I tested them myself. And I sat down as a session paid by my insurance with the leader, Mordechai Weinberger, this person who has a radio show. He has live Zoom conferences with hundreds and thousands of people tuning in every single week. The reason why they do is because he is amazing. I sat with him for over an hour and I got the most out of it. And let me tell you, I did a lot of talking. He did a lot of listening. And I learned that the Serenity Center is a clinic that provides a service for therapy that's led and supervised by Mordechai Weinberger. And I see why they're so successful. And it's just something that, we need to mention more of. And I want the community of Rockland County and even beyond to know that if you need therapy, don't wait and push it off because it might be too expensive or you may not be aware of the perfect therapist. Go to Serenity Center, try them out. Insurance will most likely cover most, if not all, the charges, and you will get top-level service.
Sounds like a no-brainer to me.
All right. We are here with Maria Santiago. Talk with Maria. Maria, I saw your booth downstairs. I went on your program, and I still know nothing about you. So please introduce yourself.
So my name is Maria Santiago. I am the CEO and president of the Talk with Maria show. And I also have a school, Home Health Aid Training Institute, that's been working very hard to train home health aides, certified nursing assistants, and putting them out in the community to try to end the shortage.
Wow. That's
And-
amazing.
Yeah, I've been in home care well over 25 years. And I've been a broadcaster for 20 of those.
A
on 93.5.
broadcaster.
That's correct. I'm very
I am
familiar with
honored.
headphones.
Yeah. By the way, I heard somebody like an inspirational speaker and he gives motivation to people.
Yes.
And he says, anytime you introduce yourself and you give yourself credentials, I'm in the business for
Yes.
this amount of time.
Yes.
Says people tend to say 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, like you just said.
Yes.
Says, what sounds more appealing when you say, and it's all about presentation. It's all about
Absolutely.
delivery.
Yes.
If you are working in this industry, which is very impressive for 25 years,
Thank you.
you know what you should say? I've been in this business almost 3 decades.
3 decades
Almost
would be
3
ideal.
decades.
Yes.
Right?
Wow.
And that
Pretty
sounds
much.
more profound.
Yeah.
Yes.
It sound, and it's true. It's
The
absolutely
decorum
true.
of decade.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about
Gives
the
you that
choice of words.
experience.
Yeah,
Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Trinidad.
I hear it in your accent.
Yes. And Tobago. We can't leave the other island out.
I will tell you something personal about me is that my parents had an employment agency specifically for people from Trinidad.
Are you kidding me? What was the name of that
It
agency?
was called Greenfield Agency.
Important.
How creative of a name, by the way. Just
Wow.
name it after my
Well,
last name.
it's all about your reputation. That's what
correct.
it was about.
Greenfield. I might have.
And we had one of our first people that we worked with. Her name was Radhi Kunjulat,
oh wow.
and she was from Trinidad. And I used to watch her music. She used to make
Nice.
us delicious, spicy foods.
Oh wow. Look at you.
Do you cook?
I cook. I love to cook.
What do you love to cook?
We have a favorite dish. It's called pilau.
Hello.
It's rice and pigeon peas with if you want to do beef or meats, and you put all the nice hot peppers in there, some thyme and chive and cilantro and shadow benny, and you just yummy
Wow. Delicious.
with some lime.
I didn't know anything what you just said, but I would try it. I try anything one time.
Listen,
So.
you would love it.
Yeah?
You would lick your lips.
So let me ask you something, Maria. You're from Trinidad. Very exotic, by the way.
Yes.
Very cool. So how long were you in Trinidad? Were you born there or were you
I was born in Trinidad.
Yeah.
I later moved to New York. My parents thought it was a very crazy move. I decided that I wanted to join the army. And I came with the high hopes of getting into the army. And then for some reason, my journey was not just subjected to that. And I got weaned into being a home health aide.
That was your first job?
That was my first job. And it was in the height of the pandemic of HIV. And no one wanted to work. Everybody was saying no to clients. And I took every job possible that I could have taken to care for everyone that had HIV as best as I can.
That's amazing.
And then I moved into being a coordinator. I moved into being a director, went back to Hostess Community College, became an administrator. Then I owned my own home care agency. I subsequently sold that. Then I moved into working with the insurance companies, Senior Whole Health and Integra. Worked with them for a while, doing marketing on the field, bringing clients, going hobnobbing to every assisted living, nursing home, helping with discharges, helping people to come back home to live, or helping people to live in assisted livings or nursing home as best as can. And as I was doing all of this and broadcasting, I figured, you know what? People are at home, but they're not happy because there's a shortage of home health aides. There's a shortage of people caring. And what can I do about this? I wanted to create a long-lasting legacy of care. I grew up with my great-grandparents in Trinidad. I'm from Hibiscus Drive, and I grew up with my great-grandparents since I was 2 months old. So working with seniors was ideally just a blessing. And I thought that I would then train people to take care of people at home.
Do they have nursing homes in Trinidad?
They do.
Is it popular or is it more popular to take care of your family at home?
It's more popular to care for your family at home.
I'm hearing that a lot from out of America.
Yes.
And you're bringing that culture into this world here.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
And I just wanted to kind of cultivate passion and heart together, not just let's make the money or I have to work. I say to people, if it's a job, it's not for you. You have to enjoy what you do. You have to be happy to take care of someone at their lowest. You've never met them before. That we're not in a glamorous team. We're not doing a party. I'm taking care of your behind to make sure that it's not breaking down. I'm spoon feeding you. I'm giving you vital information for sustenance of mental health to ensure that you can live through your days either to wellness and independence or to heaven. But either way will make you happy.
How beautiful and how profound. I have to ask you, what's your New Year's resolution?
My New Year's resolution is to travel the world and make sure that every senior does not go uncared for.
Wow. Around the world.
Yes.
That's a
That
nice
sounds
mission.
like a very daunting task. Maria, you're impressive. I only met you 5 minutes ago, but I'm already connecting to you.
Thank you.
I'm loving your story. I love your history.
Thank you.
And there's a famous expression, or it's an adage. One parent can raise 10 children. 10 children cannot raise a parent.
That's correct.
They can't care for a parent. There's something about, and this is not a job, like you say. It's not just something you do to make money. Sure, you can make money along with it, but the passion has to be there. And I could see that you're very passionate about this. And you're a passionate person in general.
Absolutely.
I'm adoring you right now.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan until I hear some stuff that maybe I won't be a fan, but right now I'm a fan.
Listen,
Talk to me about the other Maria. I don't want to hear about this wonderful, amazing Maria that we just talked. Let's talk about some of your struggles, some of your challenges. You came in as an immigrant. You're not from the country. You built yourself up. You've become successful. And now you're in a position to help others.
that's
Talk
correct.
to us a little bit about some of those rainy days. Some of those days you didn't want to get out of bed.
I slept on the train.
There you go.
The days that I didn't have enough money to pay for a cold basement apartment, that I came back from doing 3 jobs. One of them was working at Texas Fried Chicken. and I only had quarters in my pocket. And I got home, and for the first time, I was experiencing hail, and I was saying, "Oh my God, these are pebbles coming from the sky. What are they?
Is the world
And
ending?
they're just hitting you, bumpity bump." And when I walked to the apartment that I lived in the basement, all our things was outside. A little black and white television, my 3 kids, and my husband, who is now passed. And she said, "We cannot pay the rent on, I'll pay you next month. We have to leave." And I looked at him and I said, "Where are we going?" He said, "Let's first empty the 2 suitcases we have into 1 suitcase, and then we'll figure it out." And that night we slept on the train, the number 2 train, going back and forth 4 times. And then he called a friend of his that was in the army, and he says, "For heaven's sake, come to my house. Where are you guys?" And that was one thing. One of the most profound things that led me into healthcare, and not in the army, which is what I wanted to do. I worked at Best Western, and one very busy weekend, as I cashed through someone's entire groceries, the supervisor came up to me and said, "You made an error. You cashed too fast. I can almost guarantee you that there's an error." And I backed out of the entrance of their cash register, and I said to her, "I dare you, if rebuild everything again." And she said to me, if you're not accurate, I am going to have to fire you." And I looked at her and I said, in my head, my brain was stirring, and it brought me back to what my grandparents, they cried when I left, because when I left Trinidad, I knew no one in New York. I bought a ticket and I decided that I was going to come.
By yourself? You came
by
here?
myself.
Just you and a suitcase in tow?
Yes.
How old were you?
I was in my 20s, 22.
Wow. What a journey.
Yes. And so
And did you get a visa to come here?
I got a visa. I had a business. I worked for a very prominent woman. Her name was Grace Thalmer. She was the first woman that ran for president of Trinidad.
Wow.
My mother had gotten me that position. She did not win, but I got an exposure to the entire political team there. And so, my grandparents has estates. I came from an estate. I grew up in an estate. Bossier Village is my great grandparents. We had a lot of wealth and real estate, and we still do. We have acres and acres of land. And I came from a home with everything. And my great grandmother looked at me in tears, and she spoke Spanish and French. And when she wanted to get something across to you, she would speak to you in both languages. And she was behooving me, like, "Where are you going? Here's all the money. Here's all my jewelry. Here is everything. Why are you going to a big city that no one knows you? This is not a good idea."
That's a fair question. Why were you? What
just
compelled you to leave?
That I had walked all the phases of Trinidad, and I wanted to do something else. I had gone to the army in Trinidad, I had taken the exam, and after we'd taken the exam, the Attorney General said, "We don't think we should have women in the army. We should just have men." And so I created a rally, and they later changed their minds. But then it was like, okay, I think if I went to New York, I could get into the army, and I could just be a captain.
Wow. Be who you want to be.
Be who I want to be.
Amazing.
Well, she reversed everything back from the register, and it was flush. And I looked at her, and the lady that was standing there was a Hispanic senior. She says, "I did not like the way you spoke to this young lady, and I don't want the groceries anymore." And I looked at her and I said, "You know what? I was so insulted with the way that she had spoken to me, and there was other people in the back of the line. I said, "I'm just going to leave. You don't have to fire me." She was like, "No, Maria, please stay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And I just said, "You know what? I am leaving." I was torn. I was just torn. And as I was walking out the door, the security guard said to me, "Well, Maria, if you really want to leave, here's the daily newspaper. Maybe you'll find something there.
Check out the classifieds."
Check out the classifieds. And I checked out the classifieds, and I saw Partners in Care, free home health aid training. And I took the train from 125th Street straight to Partners in Care and became a home health aide.
Wow. What an amazing
That's
journey.
where it all started. And look where you are today, years and years later, sitting here with us 2 bad-looking fellows But you know what?
I wouldn't say
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Maria, let me ask you something. How did this talk with Maria? Tell us about this. What is that?
So I think the talk with Maria stemmed from a lot of effects in the sense of generation. My great-grandfather he was the head of the union in Trinidad. He always had the mic on. My great-grandmother was the head of the society, the Women's Society. And we always had fun clubs and society meetings every month and dances and balls. And so my grandmother was a great communicator. Her name was Francois Julian. And my great-grandfather, they just threw parties and hosted almost like taking care of the village. And so I like talking. And
It's in your DNA.
yeah,
Love it.
it's in my DNA. And I just wanted the world to know more about home care. I feel that people do not regard their seniors. After you hit 70, 75, I mean, my old grandmother, my old grandfather, they don't get visits anymore. If you have money, maybe your family will visit. But if you don't have, maybe you'll never see somebody. And then you're parked up in a nursing home or you're just home alone, just lonely. And I just hate that because when I came to New York, I felt bad that I had left my grandparents' home. And I think that I kept wanting to make that up. And as much as there was other family members, I just felt the need that I had to continue the legacy of care so that no one is home alone. When my grandmother would talk to me, she'd be like, please come back home. And I would be like, Mama.
How often do you go back to Trinidad? When's the last time
I
you
just
visited?
went in June for my
Oh.
birthday to visit my family.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank
Beautiful.
you.
That's a nice birthday treat.
Yes. My cousins are Geminis as well, and I wanted to surprise them. And I went back home and my friends were eagerly waiting for me. I still have all my high school friends.
Wow.
And they had a nice, we had dinner. And it was amazing. It's nothing like coconut water and your friends talking and giving you a bath. Sit down. Let me take care of you. Let's talk. Let's eat. Let's do fun things together.
I need friends like that.
By the way, what would you say, Maria, is like the one thing that really stands out for Trinidad? Like, what's the go-to thing? What are you most proud of? For the rest of the world that doesn't know a lot about Trinidad, what would you say is the one thing that really stands out?
We live as one. Now, no country in its entirety can share the greatest love. In Trinidad, we have a saying, Trini to the bone. If we hear another Trini's accent, we yield. And our Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, who I owe a lot to, he said, together we aspire, together we achieve. So we're always helping each other.
We have a company motto here.
Yes,
Together, we are stronger.
that's correct.
And we resonate with that message.
Absolutely.
That's
We love
amazing.
it. Thank you so much, Maria, for coming on our program. We really appreciate it. It was
Yes.
so nice to have a talk with you.
Yes.
I look forward to seeing a lot of you in the future shows.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
Appreciate it. Love your mission. Love the idea of what you're doing. We share in that passion for senior care, and we look forward to great things.
Absolutely.
Thank
and
you.
all the best.
I'm going to get right into it with saying that juggling is a very difficult thing to do. And today we are joined by a master juggler. I'm just going to call you that for now. You juggle the balance of personal life and business life. And I've been following you for a while and I see what you're doing. And I'm kind of blown away by it. So welcome to the None of Your Business podcast. So glad you're with us, Tova. Why don't you give us an introduction?
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And it's an honor to be here. I don't know if I would call myself a juggler, but more of a, I try to prioritize, right?
Nice.
And integrate as much as I can into my life, my personal life, my business life. My brother actually said to me the other day, he's like, your sales style is you take a very personal, stylistic approach to how you do business. And I'm like, I don't know how else to do it.
Is there another way?
Is there another way? Right. Somebody just asked me, I was standing outside. He goes, so how do you get deals? I'm like, you just meet people, you build a connection and
You're not getting good by sleeping until 10 o'clock every day. That's for sure.
no.
Just got to be out there. You
just
got to
gotta-
put yourself
What time do you wake up in the morning?
right place, right time.
I 5.
5?
I try to
Wow.
wake up at 5.
I literally went to sleep last night at 5. 5. Not even kidding.
I don't even know what the world looks like at 5 a.m.
It's very dark.
I imagine.
Very dark. And now that we have a dog, it's like my alarm clock because I hear her barking and I have to go downstairs and take her out and let's go. Lunches, everything has to be packed, ready to go to have a smooth morning.
Are you a dog person?
I grew up with dogs. My kids, once we moved to Colorado, that was it. Everybody has a dog. You need to have a dog. You need to have skis and you need to have a dog.
One dog?
One dog.
One dog.
It starts
One
with
dog.
one.
It's one. We are done.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I mean, my whole career is just, I look back and I'm just, what? How did I even get
Where did
here?
the time go?
Can you give us a
did the time go?
snapshot?
Sure. So I started off in the hospitality industry. I was a sales manager at the Hyatt Regency Century Plaza in Century City. And I loved it. It was the most fun job I ever had. When it comes to customer service, it's like, let's just upgrade you. Let's just, let's comp you, very different from healthcare. And my grandmother came to live with us. I was single and about 24 years old. And my grandmother came to live with us. And through her last 6 months of life, she had Parkinson's. And I was very involved in taking care of her. And my father was a physician for 30 years. I was a daughter of a doctor and I could play one on TV. I don't know why. When you have a parent that's a doctor, everybody calls you for medical advice. And it's like, I don't know, Google it, WebMD. But my father was a huge inspiration in my career. He is today, every day. I carry him with me. And he tragically passed away. So I was sort of in this time in my life where, I was working and I was just trying to, I really wanted to have meaning in what I was doing. And working in a hotel was fun and, lots of meetings, lots of networking and lots of partying. My clients were Sony and Fox, and it was just a very different world. I was not religious at the time. I was not Orthodox. And I just had this void. I was talking to my mom, like, I don't think this is where I want to be what I want to do when I grow up. I really want to be in healthcare. I wanted to live in my father's world. I wanted to help patients. I wanted to help families. And I had this idea. I was like, what if I can create a hospitality and healthcare training program? And I called a guy that I used to have Shabbos dinner with when I was in Stern. He was living in Queens at the time. And I called him and I said, Jason, I have this wacko idea. I want to create a hospitality and healthcare training program. And he was the only guy I knew in the healthcare world, in the business world. He was a chief marketing officer for Centers for Care at the time. And he says, can you fly out tomorrow? Okay. So I'm 25. I fly out to New York from California and I walk into Jeremy Strauss's office and 2 hours later, he said, I wanted to hire you. I want you to be the corporate director of patient relations. And I said, what does that mean? And he's like, you'll figure it out. Wow. And that was that's how I stepped into the healthcare world. Right? That was my entrance. Yeah.
You know what's interesting about the Grand, which is Jeremy Strauss, a very reputable, credible group. They've been around for a very long time. I believe they predominantly operate in New York. Yeah. I think it's a big state for them.
Yeah, tri-state.
Something I know about them as a group, which is very interesting, Michael, they don't call their residents patients. They call their residents guests. That's how they refer to them, as guests. And I'm hearing your story and how this all began, and it's starting to click for me that was a mentality that they took on very early, which relates to patient satisfaction.
Yes.
You're finding some synergies in hospitality in that world, how they do it, and you're applying it in healthcare, which was probably a new concept, like a new idea. No one was doing that at the time.
Yeah.
But I find that very interesting because it's stuck after all these years. They still operate in that fashion.
They really do. He really had a vision that he was going to set the bar high for nursing homes. He was an admissions director, and he understood that the future of healthcare was all going to be about patient choice. And what is going to set us apart from the rest is going to be the experience and the customer service. So we created this program and I worked morning till night, going to nursing home and doing these trainings with all staff on all 3 shifts. And it was just the most incredible learning experience for me, understanding the pitfalls and the challenges and that healthcare providers have every single day, what they go through. And And, one thing led to another. I went into admissions. I called my friend. We had a building that they had just taken over in Buffalo. We were on a flight. I was sitting with my friend Ari Stowis, who was in FinOps at the time. And I'm like, Ari, teach me the business in 1 hour. I want to know, how does Medicare work? How does managed care work? How does Medicaid work? What is CMI? Teach it to me.
Crazy. You have no healthcare background.
No healthcare background.
Other than just some of the fundamentals that you're now going to apply in this.
Ari was your chat GPT.
He was my chat GPT. I actually still have my notebook with all of the notes that I was scribbling down. And in when I worked for Hyatt, they sent us to Dallas for a week. In Dallas, we had trainings from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. all about how to give customer service. Not just that, how to have a proper business meeting, how to communicate with clients. It was wild, and it was all day. And it was this mindset that they wanted their employees to embody every single day. I remember I had a manager, and I walked into her office. We had a meeting, and she asked me for something, and I said, no problem. And I walked out, and she said, come back here. I turned around. I was terrified. I'm young, and I don't want to mess up. I don't want to make a mistake. And she says to me, there are no problems in the hotel industry. There are only solutions. Never say no problem again.
Wow.
Only say my pleasure.
Wow.
Only a pleasure.
And to this day,
Yeah.
I just say my pleasure, my pleasure.
Right.
And it was one little thing that I remember when I was doing these trainings. I said, if there's anything that you guys hear from me today, I can put up a PowerPoint, and you're probably it's going to go in one ear, out the other. I'm this young girl from New York. I have from California. I'm sorry. I had no experience in healthcare, and that my pleasure really stuck. It really took.
And it sounds simple, but it's very profound in a way.
Very profound.
Because it really keeps your mind in a place of like, we're here to just provide a service and bring quality to other people's lives.
Absolutely. And I remember at one of the trainings, there was a CNA, and she did not look happy. She was not happy to be there. And she's like, what do you do? And I said, I teach people how to smile. She said, how do you do that? And I walked right up to her, and I gave her a big smile. And she just started cracking.
Oh, that's funny.
And I said, you see, it's
smiles
contagious.
are infectious.
It's totally contagious.
Yeah.
And I tell them, it's like you're an actress, and you go to work, and you walk in, and you leave your problems behind, and you are now on, and you are getting paid to be of service to others and to take
There's
care.
enough difficulty. There's enough reasons not to smile already in a nursing home as is.
Absolutely.
Like if the people's attitude there are reflecting that, then it just makes things that much worse. It becomes like, so just smile. You got to be in a good mood because people live there. This is people want to be around positive energy, good energy.
Right.
So,
and that's what it's about. Energy. It's all about that positive energy.
So you're now mastering the customer service side, which is great that you're not doing things backwards. You're not first learning the business. Then how do I run a business and how do I be a good person? You're doing that first. So you have that down.
It's almost like I was a secret shopper, and I was going around and trying to understand, like, what do you guys go through every day? And what is what do you need in order for you to do your job better, in order for you to give better service? Now,
for sure. So what happens next? So you're by Jeremy Strauss, and you're learning the ropes. You're starting to gain traction around the business.
Yep.
What happens next?
So my husband was my husband's originally from New York, and when he was 18, he made Aliyah, and he went to the army. He was in the army for 2 years, and then he moved to Eilat. He was in Israel for 10 years, living in Israel. His whole family, his cousins, they all live in Israel. And he came back to Brooklyn to see his mom. He was visiting his mom. And I remember I was at a barbecue on Shabbos on a balcony, and I was going through, I was dating, and nothing was really sticking. I was financially independent. I had my own apartment. I had my own car. I was making great money. I kept saying, I don't need a man. But I wanted. There was still something missing. Like I really wanted a family. I come from a big family. I'm one of 7. And so I did the J-Date thing. I went on shidduchim, and it was very difficult. It was just, nothing was working. So I remember I was sitting at this barbecue, and I was with a bunch of my friends, and I'm like, you know what, guys? I'm good. I could be single for the rest of my life. I don't need this. Like, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. They all laughed. Yeah, sure, Tova. And I was at this barbecue till about 8:00 at night. It was Motzi Shabbos, and I walked back to my apartment, and my friends were walking with me because there was a bar on the corner of where I was living on Franklin Avenue. Franklin Bar. And my friend said, Tova, let's go in for a drink. I'm like, guys, I smell like a barbecue. I got to go home. I'm wearing like jeans and a t-shirt. I'm exhausted. I just want to go back to my apartment. One drink, Tova, just one drink. I'm like, fine.
It always starts with
one drink. I said, you know what? I'm going to sit outside. You guys go get the drinks. I'll stay for one drink. There were these picnic tables outside. So I'm sitting there and I see this guy that I had been set up with a couple months earlier with at a Shabbat dinner, and it was not for me. And I remember putting my head down saying, I really don't want to see that guy. And he walks over and he says, hi, Tova. And I said, oh, hi, Ari, how are you? And behind him comes Josh, my husband, with 2 drinks. And it turns out that they were best friends from the time they were kids.
Wow.
And Josh gives me a drink and he says, who are you? And I said, who are you? And the rest is history.
Look at that.
So
Love at first sight.
it really was.
It really was.
It really, really was.
Also a lesson learned, by the way. When
really
someone
was.
says come for a drink, you go for a drink.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that I really
can't turn
didn't
down
want
a
to
drink
do.
for other reasons, but yeah.
I have to tell you, some of the best meetings that I have are at the bar at night after everybody's quieted
Yes.
down and letting loose. And some of the best
You do some of your best work
Yeah.
at bars at like
Yeah.
3 a.m.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, no joke.
That's when I'm connecting with people
everybody's
on a
guard
personal
is
level.
down.
Yeah.
Everyone's guard
Everybody
is
is just
down.
like very
Sure.
open and very open to ideas.
Yeah.
And good things happen when people can communicate that way.
What a great story, though. But
Yeah.
how that
We need more alcohol in the world. That's the bottom line.
I don't know about that, but
Yeah,
I think the point is just to be open to opportunities. And,
for sure.
you know, I kind of live my life with this very, authentic way of doing business, of building relationships. And it's timing, right place, right time. But really, I live my life with a lot of faith. I have a lot of faith in Hashem. Because just looking back at my life, I mean, there's a lot of things. Anytime I had anxiety, which is really fear. I mean, anxiety really is just being afraid. And I pushed myself to go outside of my comfort zone. Moving to New York, I didn't really know a lot of people. Going into an industry I knew nothing about. Putting together something that I was totally outside of my wheelhouse, outside of my comfort zone, and just pushing myself to take risk. Hashem has opened a lot of doors
Love
that
it.
way. So
Well, you took risk. You went through the motions, and here you are today.
Here.
But I'm actually very curious also to hear about you in this industry, because let's face it, you don't really see a lot of women in healthcare, especially at the front lines and the leadership level, especially. And you are seeing it now more and more. You are seeing it a lot more in the last 5, 10 years than you've ever seen it.
There's 70 women here at ECAP.
Is that what it is?
Good,
Yeah,
yeah.
we don't have a ladies division.
Amongst 1,200 attendees, it's not bad.
No, 70 out of 1,200. It's about 4%.
Yeah.
But it's growing. It certainly is. But I am noticing a trend, because we have had a couple of people on the podcast, also females that are in healthcare but at a leadership level, and they're very impressive. They really are impressive. And I think that in the hospitality business, there are different things that maybe for a female versus a male can get that connection, that communication that they're very good at, and it serves the organization in a big way. And I think that's something that you're bringing to the table. But I'm very impressed by you. I mean, you're doing things. It's hard. Let's face it.
Really hard.
And sometimes you have men, and they're older even. And they're part of the program, and you got to direct them as well. So how do you see that as a challenge? Do you see that what do you how do you stake your claim? What's your model? What's been your recipe that drives you to become successful in the industry?
It's hard. It is really, really hard. This is not for everybody. And you need to have a very thick skin. I mean, the things that have been said to me in my career have been kind of eye-opening and also ew, and you just kind of walk away from it and not listen to it. It's a lot of noise. And I just be myself.
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
you're leading by example.
I just be myself.
And it also gives a lot of visibility for others like you to follow suit and to say, I can do anything. I could be in any career. I could be in any position, within a healthcare organization. So I commend you. I think you're doing not just something for yourself, but there are people watching, and people that are taking notice. And I think that 70 number potentially is going to grow and going to keep growing, and
Hope so.
equal opportunity
Yeah, and you're
for
a part of
everybody.
that. I'm curious, before we wrap up, what would you tell your older self, like your younger self? I'm sorry, someone that's getting involved in the industry now, a young woman that wants to, make her mark, so to speak. What's that secret sauce?
I think I would tell my younger self just to take a beat and to write down what's most important to you. And once you write down what's most important and what you want in your life, because let's face it, oh, I want to make money. Okay, but what does that mean? What does that mean? There's so many
Why do
different
you wanna
ways
make
of,
money?
yeah, why do you want to make money? There's so many ways to make money also. But I think having a roadmap for yourself in your personal life, in your professional life is really, really important and it has a lot of value. I wish I did that back in the day. I think I would tell her everything's going to work out and it's all going to be okay. And it's all in God's hands. Just so
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on our
Oh my
program.
God,
we
my
really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Yes, it was
Thank
beautiful.
you.
This is amazing. And it's funny how we know each other, but we really don't. And then
Yeah.
we're getting to know each other now even more and look forward to great things
Thank
coming
you.
from your side.